Damon had the opportunity to go speak with Kenny Thompson Jr., the Vice President of External Affairs at PepsiCo, at the great HBCU, Howard University in Washington, D.C., on behalf of Historically Better, powered by Pepsi Stronger Together. PepsiCo has been a committed partner to both our show and HBCUs across the country, with a more than $400 million investment to increase Black representation at PepsiCo. Let's take a look.
All right, everybody, thank you for being here at Black Entrepreneurs Day 2022, and it is amazing to have a partner such as Pepsi with their Stronger Together partnership for BED 2022. And joining me today at Howard University is Kenny Thompson Jr., who is the VP of External Affairs for North America at PepsiCo. Why don't you tell us a little bit about what you do and what does external affairs mean? It's kind of a big word.
Yeah, so first off, thanks so much for having me. One of the things that PepsiCo is really good at, and that's focusing on communities. How can we be engaged at the community level in all aspects? That means HBCUs, that means local community colleges. How can we make sure that we are adding value to communities? And that's what my team does.
What's your background? How did you come about being in this position?
Yeah, so prior to my PepsiCo life, I was in the White House. I worked in the Obama-Biden administration for 5 years. At the heart of everything I've tried to do is public service, right? So how do I shift from the public sector to the private sector, but still serve people? When I was working for the then Vice President, Joe Biden, I was doing public-private partnerships. And every single meeting, PepsiCo was always at the table. No matter what the issue was. They always had a representative there. They were always engaged in these issues. So I thought to myself, okay, if I can do this work in the public sector and I can see a company that's doing this kind of work in the private sector, I think that's where I want to go.
How many brothers and sisters are out there behind the scenes that you don't know doing this amazing work?
So many. One of the things that got me so inspired when I was a kid, I didn't see people who looked like us doing this work. So, you know, one of the things my dad always taught me was find people who are doing what you want to do and follow them, ask them questions. That's what I've done. And to see the network of young Black men and women doing amazing work in the private sector, it's fantastic.
If a young brother or sister wants to be part of what's happening today over at Pepsi and they want to create change, where do they start?
Well, I think this is a great example. Historically Better is a commitment to HBCUs. Like, it's specifically for talent development and recruitment. So we want to be present on these campuses, and when these kids, whether it's graduate school or undergrad, we want to be on the top of that list. I want to work at PepsiCo. They've been here every year.
You know, and I often see two types of students. One who says, listen, I'm busting my butt. I've paid to go to college. I've sacrificed so much, and I need to get paid now. And I know it's very hard, right? But I've also seen students who say, you know what, if my access to getting in the door is to intern for credit, you know, I'm going to do that too.
Right.
Also, what I realize is a student that is passionate about something, they'll get to the office before everybody and they'll leave after everybody.
Those are the kids that you want to work for for our company. They know the value of their time, and they put their time to what they value.
What would you say to brothers and sisters who are trying to get in there, they just don't know where to start?
I think the best advice I got when I started at PepsiCo was learn how we make money, learn our business, how we stock our shelves, how we move our product. Learn that business like the back of your hand, and you're destined for success.
You laid some good groundwork for us to get some questions from our future sharks, so let's open it up to the crowd. All right, who has a question? Young man right here.
My question to you, Mr. Thompson, was you mentioned to surround yourselves with people who are already doing what you would want to do. What's the tip you have for young Black men who are trying to get themselves through the door while also network with those individuals? You
know, in 2017, Ken Chenault, the former CEO of American Express, announced he was retiring. I was in my office, and I just pulled out a note card. I wrote him a note that just said, hey, thank you so much. You don't know me, but I just want to thank you so much for being who you are, for being an example that I can follow. And I forgot I wrote that letter, forgot all about it. But a month later, he wrote me back. You never know who will write you back. People want to help, particularly if you show interest in what they're doing and you sort of lay out what you'd like to do.
Let me get all the way in the back.
In your position, how do you get comfortable saying no to the different people that bring business ideas to you on a daily basis?
I try to put it back on the person to explain to them and have empathy while they're asking of the question. What information do you have? Here's how much limited time I have, or, and tell them why I'm saying no. Young man right here in the front.
Good morning, gentlemen.
Morning.
Morning.
And Mr. Thompson, this question goes out to you. What were some of the challenges that you had to undergo with this transition going from a public sector to a private sector?
The transition from the public sector to the private sector wasn't an easy one. I struggled for the first couple of months. Take the time to learn the business. It's people want to sprint, but sometimes it's okay to jog and learn a couple of things along the way.
One of the young ladies, do you have a question?
Does creating change ever get overwhelming? And if so, how do you deal?
One of the things I try to do in a lot of different aspects of my life is break it down in sectors, small goals, right? Like, it lessens the opportunity to be disappointed. But when you start thinking about like 10 years from now or 20 years from now, that's when it's easy to get deflated, right? Like, you got to recognize the small victories that you have every day, every week, because those count. Those are adding up to the big victories that you're trying to get to. Don't discount those.
Young man back there with the braids.
And what's the time in your life where you have to sacrifice money to get yourself ahead?
I have to do that every day, even till today. Right around 17, when all the kids in school were talking about going to college, I was too cool to go to college. Everybody else, I would call them back then nerds. Well, fast forward to, when I was 22 years old, all those nerds were coming back with college degrees and jobs, and I was in Red Lobster with tartar sauce on my apron. And I realized maybe I was the idiot. And I decided at that time that I needed to catch up. I was behind. So I started FUBU. I worked at Red Lobster from 12 o'clock in the afternoon to 11 o'clock at night. I sold shirts from 11 o'clock at night to 2, 3 in the morning. I woke back up at 6 in the morning. I started delivering the shirts and went back to Red Lobster. I did that for 4 years. And then by 28, the FUBU finally took off. All right, young man.
My question is, how does PepsiCo ensure that diversity, equity, and inclusion is upheld within the workspace? And how is this reflected in the ways in which they give back to underrepresented communities?
Great question. One of the reasons I work at PepsiCo is because of its commitment to diversity and inclusion. PepsiCo was doing this work long before 2020. When you find that company that believes the same things that you do, that stands for the same things that you do, you typically stay.
I don't have the opportunity often to speak to leaders like you who are behind the scenes, and I think that myself, as well as so many other people that are watching, can learn from what you and PepsiCo are doing. Thank you for your dedication and commitment to being historically better or stronger together. We have so much more in common in this country than we have apart, and you're bringing us together and bringing up the next generation. Thank you so much, man.
Absolutely. Thank you.